Before there were video games, there were board games. Instead of using a controller to shoot attacking zombies, you sat around a table with other humans and moved small pieces around a board. While board games might seem like a wholesome treat that your grandparents encourage you to play, they also have a dark past. Some of the cardboard creations have caused quite a stir over the years, due to terrible product design, insensitive topics, or for just being plain weird. But what does it take for a board game to actually get banned? The sinking of the HMS Titanic is one of the greatest tragedies in American history. As most of us know, the Titanic sank on the 15th of April 1912 after colliding with an iceberg, killing over 1,500 people. Since the disaster, mentions of the ship have been mostly treated with caution, so as not to offend the survivors of the disaster and their families. An example of controversy came in 2007, when the BBC received complaints from survivor Milvina Dean for their Doctor Who episode featuring a spaceship called the Titanic in an episode entitled The Voyage of the Damned. While the Doctor Who episode and many other TV parodies of the event don't win points for subtlety, their stories look much better when compared to this banned board game. The Sinking of the Titanic was released in 1976 by legendary board game company Milton Bradley. From the family-friendly company behind Twister, Simon, and Hungry Hungry Hippos came a survival board game where players had to avoid sinking to a watery grave. To make matters worse, The Sinking of the Titanic was marketed as a children's game, recommended for those between the ages of 8 and 14. Best played with 4 people, the aim of The Sinking of the Titanic was to gather supplies and escape the Titanic before it sinks, with each roll of the dice sinking the Titanic a little further. But the game doesn't end when the ship sinks, as players then have to compete against each other to survive at sea. The game separates into 2 phases. During the first phase, players move around the doomed boat, rescuing a variety of passengers from their staterooms and gathering supplies for their escape. As players move across the ship, it begins to tip into the water. One commendable feature of the game was its unique swiveling board, with the Titanic rotating a little further each turn. As the ship turns, the lifeboats begin to slip off the board into the ocean, allowing players to board them once ready. Players must move fast, however, as they must board a lifeboat with 2 passengers, 2 water tokens, and 2 food tokens. The first phase ends when the ship reaches 180 degrees and disappears beneath the seaboard, after which a rescue boat will appear on the horizon. The second phase involves the players trying to survive at sea until the rescue ship arrives. All the lifeboats without players get washed up on the nearby islands. If a player fails to get to a lifeboat, they can continue in the game, but they cannot win. Instead, they must jump into the water and swim to a nearby island. Allowed to use only 1 die, the player must get to the nearest lifeboat in order to claim it. The game is then determined by adventure cards. If a lifeboat player reaches an island, they can pull an island card, which may give them the chance to rescue a passenger who has survived the sinking and made it to the island. Sea adventure cards are drawn whenever the player rolls a 1 with the die and can cause players to gain or lose supplies, including passengers being eaten with the cannibal card. The rescue ship moves a little closer with every 1 or 6 rolled, and can only be boarded when it comes completely above the waterline. Despite being difficult to get to, the first player to board the rescue ship isn't necessarily the winner, as you must board the ship with 2 or more passengers, 2 food tokens, and 2 water tokens in order to best the game. Any form of teamwork between players won't help you, as lifeboats can steal supplies from one another, and even passengers. Despite its disastrous name, The Sinking of the Titanic was a little more tactful than you might first imagine. The game did not include any reference to icebergs, and no real reason was given for the sinking of the ship. Seemingly set around some unnamed tropical islands, the Titanic in the game did not appear to mirror the course of the original ship. None of the passenger cards were named after actual people on board, instead given exaggerated names such as Lord Upton and Miss Priss. But it'll be no surprise to anyone that the board game was recalled due to its insensitive name and premise. A version of the game entitled Abandoned Ship continued to circulate in the UK, and versions of the original can be found. but the game is a rarity and considered a mistake of the past. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed yourselves. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter and visit heypoorplayer.com.